What is going on, ladies and gentlemen? Today we have an exciting module where we are going to be discussing establishing your service, which by all means is probably one of the most important things, because if you don't have an established service, then you don't have an agency. Okay, so let's get into today's itinerary. All right, so we're going through the two kinds of services, specifically the convenience type of service and the ROI based service, the pros and cons of each type of service, what service is right for you, and identifying the transformation that you provide. All right. And of course, as always, we have some action steps for the end of this module. Okay. So first things first, choosing your service. All right. The two kinds of services. So it's fundamental that you understand the two different kinds of services when you're in the B2B space. Okay. Especially when you're running an agency, because depending on what kind of service you choose will ultimately alter the height of scale that you actually take your agency to and the height that you're able to actually charge for your service. Okay. We'll get into that later on in this module. So let's talk about the convenience services. All right. So this service is designed to make business owners' life easier. However, directly communicating the results you're providing isn't straightforward. Okay. So example of this is social media management. Now, I don't like downplaying convenience offers, but there is a little bit more cons to having a convenience-based offer. Okay. Again, we get into that. Now, a direct ROI service. All right. So this service is designed to help businesses actually grow their business's bottom line. All right. So the service can actually measurably directly correlate to the amount of results that you're bringing them. Okay. So you can actually measure those results and say, hey, business owner, you're giving us this, we're generating this, which is bringing you this much profit at the end of the month. Okay. That's very, very key, because it's much, and again, we get into this, but it's much harder to let somebody go when you're like given 10K and you're providing 50K in value, right? So again, we get into this, but let's talk about the convenience offers and convenience services first. Okay. So some pros of this. All right. So the pros of a convenience-based offer would include these services are great in terms of barrier to entry. Okay, so typically they're easier to start up. So again, there's probably some of you who are already running an agency. Maybe you are in the convenience service space and you already know that the barrier to entry is pretty easy. Okay, when you're starting up a social media management agency, it's very, very easy to start up, because all you really need is some graphic designers and some people to basically publish and post all of that content and stuff like that. Okay, it's very, very easy. Now, again, this is an easy sell to business owners who are wanting to take a step back from their business and get more time freedom in their life. All right. So if you find those quote unquote lazy business owners or the ones that are trying to take a step back, it's a pretty easy sell for them. All right. Now, again, these services are a lot more scalable typically, because you're basically able to handle more than 50 plus clients. Like when I was, again, running around with like my head cut off when I started my agency and I was offering all these different services, we had a handful of social media management clients. And typically like these types of clients, although they didn't pay as well, it was very easy to manage them because I just had basically team members that would, publish the content, create the content, stuff like that. Okay. But let's talk about the cons of the convenience types of services. All right. So these businesses are usually the first to get fired or laid off when shit starts to hit the fan. Okay. Now, again, this is kind of a big one for me, because I want to help you guys build a sustainable business, whether you are a new agency owner or you're someone that is at, 10K a month, 20K a month, 50K a month, 100K a month. It doesn't matter. The goal is sustainability. Okay. You don't want to have something like a drop shipping store where it's like you build something trending and then it fizzles out the next 3, 4, 5 months. Okay. You want to have something that lasts years to come. Just like my agency, I've been doing this for 4.5 years, and I hope to have my agency for, over 10 years and 20 years, late into when I decide to quote unquote retire. But that's kind of the thing, right? Is these convenience-based offers it's easier to get laid off or fired when shit hits the fan. A few examples of this. Something might happen in that business owner's, personal life. The wife starts getting mad at them. Something happens with the kids. Something takes them out of the game, right? And their goal in that moment is to reduce the amount of stress that they're having, okay? So when they try to reduce the amount of stress, obviously leaning their business out is part of relieving them of that stress. So again, the one thing that you're going to want to, make sure of is you got to ingrain yourself in their business if you are providing a convenience-based offer, so that they don't let you go as easy, okay? Because it is easier as a convenience-based offer to get relieved of your services compared to a direct ROI type of service, which we get into. Now, again, these services are very rarely can be higher ticket. Okay. You can't be charging 5K a month for social media management, unless you're working with like these large corporations like Nike and Adidas, whatever it is. Like there's just no way that any company is going to pay you for this type of service if it's just one type of service, right? If you want to have multiple convenience-based services within your agency, that's when you can start to stack up a lot of these, pricing options, but it's just not the typical way to actually generate like a high customer lifetime value, or, the amount that a client's actually going to be willing to pay you. Okay. So again, that's kind of a con of the convenience-based service. And lastly, these businesses require a lot more hands on deck in terms of team members, which again, it's not a bad thing, but it's just going to require to have a lot more talent coming in your business. And it's going to really rely on you to have solid talent searching systems. Okay. Again, we get into that. So let's talk about direct ROI services. All right. So the pros of this: you're able to charge higher fees for this sort of service in the most cases because you're going to be generating more in value to that business. Good example of this is my agency. We provide paid ad services, email marketing services, UGC services, things like that. So it's something that we can directly show them the value that we're bringing. Okay. Now, businesses you work with will rarely let you go if you're good at delivering profitable results. Again, even if shit hits the fan with the business owner in his personal life or in the business, if we can say, hey, listen, like, we understand what you're going through, but you're still paying us this and we're still giving you this in value and it's profitable, they're not gonna let you go. And if they do let you go, then obviously that person has bigger problems for sure. Okay. And lastly on the pros list is business owners become more reliant on you if you're good at what you do, and you will do everything possible to keep you on board. Guys, I can't stress it enough. The clients that have been with us for over 2-3 years are the clients that literally, like, when I think about this, we've ingrained ourselves not only so strongly into their business, but we're so good at delivering good results that, like, the idea of letting us go is just, it's not happening. They almost rely on us for their marketing and sales operations. And so again, once you start to ingrain yourself more into that business owner's business, things just become a lot easier for you. Okay. So let's talk about the cons. All right. So these businesses have a higher barrier to entry because of the complexities that they come with. Again, if you're running a service for e-commerce businesses, I'm sure you already know this. Like, you have to offer such a variety of services to actually help them scale. So it comes with more complexity. All right. Now, again, they typically cannot scale to huge heights in terms of clientele because the workload required, to actually provide an A1 service it's going to start to take a dip. This is something with my agency that I've really recognized is, like, we don't even want to scale past like 17 to 20 clients on a monthly basis, because again, it'll require us to dip, into the realm of basically not staying and remaining like a boutique agency. It's going to require a lot more of my time, which kind of takes away the opportunity of why I started the agency, which is to have freedom and have really good cash flow and deliver proper services. But, again, like, your service delivery might start to take a little bit of a hit because you're not really focused on that good core group of clients anymore. You're focusing now on volume, right? And I've heard this many times before from clients who are in the, direct ROI service, sort of faculty, and they start trying to onboard like 100 plus clients, your service delivery just takes a huge hit. Okay. And then lastly, typically these agencies' service offerings suck the time away from their owners because agency owners fail to set up internal operations efficiently. Like I said, it's much easier in a convenience-based offer to actually have the team member set up properly. With a direct ROI service, offer, it's typical that a lot of agency owners, they hire too quick and they hire too many people because, again, they're so caught up in like trying to outsource everything, when in reality you need to still remain lean and you need to have good systems and good procedures in your agency. Okay. So that's some cons of the direct ROI service-based offer. All right. So which service is right for you? Questions to ask yourself: are you actually confident in delivering the service you're planning to sell to other business owners? Does this sort of service actually excite you? Are you someone that wants to handle 50 plus clients or 10 to 20 clients on a monthly basis? Asking yourself, what is your personal bandwidth? Is this service a cookie cutter service that everyone currently offers in your marketplace? And how can you be unique with this service offer to position yourself in a blue ocean of your own? Okay. So these are questions that you need to ask yourself in order to identify, of course, which faculty of service offering you want to go into, whether it's a direct ROI service or a convenience-based service. And then also, some of those questions really apply and help you start to think about how you can position yourselves differently. Because even though there's a lot of you in this community, in this program, that maybe work with the same industry and offer the same service, there's different ways to communicate what it is that you do through your unique mechanisms and your unique sort of structure and framework and approach, so that basically it sounds different to all these different clients. Okay. So again, you have to be unique. So select your service. All right. So components to choosing the right service at the right time. So by now you have answered all the questions to give you the right information to enable you to choose the services that you want to deliver or enhance the service you currently provide. If you're just starting out under 10K a month, you need to stick to one or a combination of 2 direct services max. Okay. Again, if you're just starting out, you don't want to offer a plethora of tons of different services. You just want to keep it as lean as possible. Okay. You don't want to be a full service agency right at the start. If you're above 20K a month, you can begin thinking about fine-tuned services that are needed that you can add to your agency in order to control more variables. So again, a good example of this is when I started my agency, as really trying to focus in on e-commerce brands specifically. We were just a Facebook ads agency. But then as we started to expand, we recognized that we needed to control more variables. So we started adding in Google ads to the mix, TikTok ads to the mix, and then we started, helping them out with, building UGC creatives, hiring the creators, writing their copy, doing all these things. So as you start to go, you want to start to control more variables, okay? And again, I have this example right here. So again, a few examples even further into that. So managing ad creatives and copy can lead to a better click-through rate, better CPMs, which mean more traffic come from the ad to the landing page. Again, you want to control more variables, all right? The more controlled variables that you have within your control, it makes it easier for you to deliver results, all right? There's nothing worse than being able to, have to rely on clients for, creatives or copy or this and that. Like, you want to control all those variables, all right? But you want to start off slow. So starting with 1 or maybe 2 direct services until you reach 25K a month, okay? So the reason for this is you need to first create a solid foundation with 1 to 2 services and build proof of concept there first. It's very, very important that you build that foundation, okay? So this will be the foundation of the results that you provide. So if you're working with a specific niche, let's call it e-commerce, for instance, you want to specialize within that 1 or 2 services, okay? Your service might be an omnipresent approach to advertising. So you might run the paid ads for a lot of these brands, but you still offer like the Facebook ads, Google ads, TikTok ads, stuff like that. And then as you start to get to that point where you're doing 25K a month, maybe by this point you have, maybe 5, 6, 7 clients under your belt. That's when you can start to fine tune your service offering and say, hey, you know what? It would actually improve our service a lot more if we can start to handle the website CRO side. So now we can build product pages for clients. We can handle the UGC creatives, stuff like that, okay? So again, these are just things to consider, but you shouldn't be focusing on this until you're at about 25K a month, because it does also require some capital investment to get new, whether it be media buyers, new contractors to actually deliver these new fine-tuned services, okay? So what transformation do you provide? Your set procedure to get results, right? So you need to clearly identify the transformation that you provide your clients. Make sure it's simple, yet extremely desirable. Ask yourself what your client truly desires at the end of the day: more sales, more leads, more content, etc. Okay, so you need to ask yourselves what your industry desires and what that ideal client desires. It'll definitely lead you closer to identifying whether you want to have a direct ROI type of service or a convenience-based service, okay? And then communicating that service you provide is something many overlook. It's the reason why many agency owners struggle to get booked calls or new clients, okay? So you must be able to communicate this transformation at every touching point that you make with the prospect. So when someone sees you from an ad, from an email, whatever it is, you need to be able to clearly communicate that transformation, all right? Without clearly communicating the transformation, it's going to be very, very hard for you to land new booked calls, new booked appointments, and actually close these clients, okay? Because people are ideally looking to go from where they're currently at to where they want to be. And so you need to communicate that transformation. Now, I actually recommend building out a flow chart to visually communicate this transformation. This is a type of tool that is very, very useful, because you can utilize this for your emails, for your Loom videos to walk through, for your VSL to walk through, when you're actually on the sales calls and discovery calls and follow-up calls with your prospect, because again, it's a clear transformation. So you can build out this type of flow chart in something like Miro or Lucid. These are great apps for this, but I really recommend it. I know that when my agency started incorporating that into the sales journey and the sales process of what it is that we do and the transformation we provide, you could just start to see that the prospect's eyes would light up. So I really encourage that. And again, we get into this more into the later modules when we start talking about sales. So we'll show you guys everything that we do in terms of sales and our transformation and our flow chart and everything, okay? So action steps, all right? So identify if your service is a convenience-based or ROI-based offer. Answer the questions that were in the previous slide so that you can make sure that you know exactly, what you feel confident moving forward with, okay? Clearly state the transformation you want to provide your clients, and finalize the 1 to 2 services you want to provide your clients. If you're doing above 25K a month, you can begin identifying the fine-tuning services that you want to add on. Again, if you're under 25K a month, I don't recommend it. Just make sure you're above 25K a month if you're trying to add a little bit more fine-tuning services to your agency. And of course, drop a message in the Discord channel to see what others in your niche are offering and why. Okay, again, best part about this community is the people in it. Leverage each other, ask each other questions, and try to bounce ideas off each other so that you guys can fine-tune each other's service delivery and obviously become better agency owners. Okay, so that is it for today's module, ladies and gentlemen. I hope you guys enjoyed it, and I will see you guys in the next one. Cheers.